We have a very exciting speaker, and I am going to turn this over to Tara Linehan, who is on our Broomfield Open Space Foundation. She's our vice president of the organization, and she will be leading the discussion and introduce our outstanding international presenter.
Thank you, Kristen. Hi, everyone. I'm Tara Linehan. Thank you for that nice introduction, Kristen. I had the opportunity to meet Francis last year in the Maasai Mara. And so very cool connection that he had to Colorado. And Francis, tell me, interrupt me if I get any of this wrong, but Francis was born and raised in the Maasai Mara. He has a very deep-rooted connection to the natural world, having grown up herding livestock around, wild animals in a beautiful place. He did his master's in conservation leadership at Colorado State University. He served as a data manager for the Maasai Mara Wildlife Conservancies Association, which overseeing data management and analysis for 12 conservancies. He is part of Base Camp Explorer Foundation, leading foundation programs to promote sustainable development and biodiversity in his region. And he is the conservation manager right now for the Olare Moturogi Conservancy. I hope I said that somewhat correctly. And so Francis is joining us from the Maasai Mara, and it's very early. So thank you, Francis, for being here.
Absolutely, you're welcome, Tara. Yeah, so thank you so much, Tara, and thank you everybody for joining. So excited to present about the Maasai Mara Conservancies in Kenya. This is one of an amazing models of conservation and how much conservation can give back to the local community and how much people can be able to benefit from wildlife conservation. So this is a very unique model that has been successful in the Mara. And I think I'll start by saying that my name again is Francis, has been introduced by Tara. I am a manager at Olare Moturogi Conservancy. This is one of the conservancies among 25 conservancies in the Mara that were set up by the local community. And what I mean by a conservancy is the local community lease their land. They bring their land together and then they lease to the conservancy. So they be able to, receive revenue on a monthly basis, and also to be able to, open land for free movement of wildlife. So through the conservancies, we've been able to safeguard habitats of wildlife, open the corridors of wildlife. So right after subdivision of the land the local community land, which was communal, that was back in 2002, around that. The Maasai now started, coming up with fences, moving and coming up with structures in their own land now that they have the title deed. Right before that, it used to be communal. There were group ranches in the Maasai Mara. So the former group ranches were used to be managed by few individuals. It was characterized by corruption. There were things like unaccountability. Few individuals were getting the resources. And the whole land belonged to the local communities. So after subdivision of land, the Maasai were like, we'd be able to get the revenue from leasing all the land to the conservancies. That is when the Conservancy started, right from 2006 onwards, all the way to now. So over the period of time, there's been new Conservancies, coming up. And at the moment, as they stand, there are 25 Conservancies under the umbrella of Maasai Mara Wildlife Conservancies Association, which is an umbrella organization that that gives the 4Es to the Conservancies, support them, fundraise for these Conservancies, and especially during periods where there are calamities or things like pandemics, like the COVID, which strike the whole world. So the 25 Conservancies belong to the local community, and it has been really profitable to these communities. So at the moment, we have 25 Conservancies, which covers 181,000 hectares of land. All these land are managed under the same models. We have, at the moment, over 16,000 landowners who have leased their land to the Conservancies. And all these Conservancies are at different stages of development. If you see the old ones, like one of the Conservancies that are managing at the moment, and then there are also the which started, I think, it started 2006. There are also other Conservancies that are just starting at the moment. So they're in different stages in terms of how they function, and it has been proven to work very well. So with 16,000 landowners, each landowner has an extended family. So you can be able to imagine how many of these landowners, how many people in the Mara are benefiting from the conservation. So, and more land are being leased at the moment to the Conservancies. They are newly acquired new Conservancies that are coming up, and especially with the areas where there are forested areas like the Loita, which I'm sure someone who has been to the Mara will be able to relate with.
Excuse me, Francis, can I just ask if we need to advance the slides for you?
I can read from my end. So okay. Yeah.
Okay, just let us know when you need us to advance them.
Sure.
Thank you.
So basically, this model, or the most important thing that has come out from this model, is the fact that this is a sustainable development. It's a way that the local community are able to stay with their land, benefit from their land, benefit from the natural resources they have in their land, and it's community driven. This is an environmental efforts that are community driven. So there are economic benefits that has been received by the local community through the Conservancies. And one of them is employment. So at the moment, there are more than 16,000 individuals who have been employed in the tourism camps in the Maasai Mara. If you look at in terms of rangers numbers, we have over 468 rangers employed also in protect the wildlife in the Conservancies. Other benefit are, there's also direct employment, which of course I'll mention. There is direct revenue on a monthly basis, and many other that I can mention down in the slide. And the Conservancies have brought a future opportunities a lot for the local youth, the women in the community, trainings that the youth are able to attend to advance their skills in conservation. So some other benefits that have been brought by the Conservancies, where there is a guaranteed monthly revenue that comes from the leases. There are also things like grass. This is a community that keep livestock. So now in the Conservancy, we've been able to manage grazing. So at the moment in Olare Motorogi Conservancy, I have a planned program on holistic grazing, which was a different case before. So at the moment, we have grazing blocks and we follow plans. And we open a certain area until when the grass are at a certain level, then we move the herds to other levels. So that's how we've been able to manage the grazing in the conservancies. And the members of the conservancies are able to get this grazing throughout the year. Other things like bursaries. Most of the conservancies have bursaries kitties that goes to their students. And of course, numbers in the Mara of graduates have increased a lot since the start of the conservancy. Some of the products, like myself, as a result of the conservancies that has been formed in the Mara, that we are able to attend the schools. There's other development projects. There's water that boreholes and dams and such things that has been worked or has been funded by the conservancies. Land protection, which is a big deal. After subdivision of land, we started seeing people selling land. So the Maasai community were losing their culture as other communities were coming in between the lands. So they're able to get the revenue instead of selling land. And also the lease is binding for a number of years, so someone is not able to sell the land. And that has been a biggest problem in the most developing countries, land sale. And for the case of the Mara, which would have lost a lot to, if we have different investors coming in with different land uses, they would have wanted to build skyscrapers in the middle of the savannah. So the land has been able to, the leases have been able to prevent the people in the area from selling the land. So there's a guaranteed future of the kids being able to come and see the wildlife or find the land as intact as possible, at least for the next 25 years. So I talked about employment opportunities. There's also business enterprises that has been received, and talk about cultural villages where the community are able to showcase their culture. They're able to get revenue through those avenues. Livestock enterprises is program like fattening herds that are happening in some of the conservancies. They're able to fatten these livestock and then sell them. So they're able to get a guarantee amount or an equivalent amount of their livestock. So compensations in case of consolations in schemes, which is basically saying we understand in case of predation of livestock. So there is a consolation scheme that goes, or an amount that goes to each landowner when they lose livestock. So that is also a good scheme because people are able to appreciate wildlife, and not see them as enemies. So that has changed the perception of how people look at their wildlife in their land. So there's also conservation and other resources. These people are able to conserve water, forest in the area, and such. So those are some of the benefits that the conservancies have been able to receive from conservation in the area. And many other benefits. There is also a change. If you look at the livelihood of the local community in the area, it has improved. When I was young and comparing the livelihood of the people in the Mara at that time and now, there is a positive change as a result of conservancies in the area. So other social and environmental impacts, women empowerment programs have been strengthened in the area. There are 50 plus of women conservancy leadership roles that have been, that has been given the opportunity to lead or sit in the boards of the conservancy. So there's led to a gender inclusion in many other things, even in the social life, in the community. People are now understand the importance of gender balance, which I know with the community like the Maasai, we were struggling with that. But through the conservancies, there's been trainings and sensitization of women empowerment, and it has really improved a lot over the period of time. Other environmental impacts that has been seen in the received from the conservancies is control grazing, which I spoke about, which is basically being able to plan grazing for wildlife and cattle. There is also environmental pilot programs further improving rangeland management, which are now things that we are trying to invest in the conservancies. We're looking at experts in rangelands to make sure that we're able to manage our rangeland as needed. Since overstocking has been an issue in the area. So most of with such setups and also with such setup in the conservancies, there are challenges that comes or that the conservancies are facing. If you look at the population of the people in the area, it's increasing a lot, and such population increase, of course, will always result through infrastructure development that causes the change in land use. So we've seen fencing coming up as a result of the population and subdivision of land, which has disrupted the wildlife movement and posed a lot of challenges in conservation. Environmental degradation, overgrazing, and of course, now that we see the manifestation of climate change, there's been a lot of environmental degradation in most of the areas. And the Maasais are not able to predict when is it going to rain. Before they were able to, the months that were known for rains, and at the moment they're not able to predict what are the if it's going to rain or not. And those are just manifestation of climate change effects in the area. There is also issues of land use change. It used to be pastoralism in the area and wildlife conservation, which were going hand in hand. And at the moment, people are also diving into other land uses like agricultural agriculture, which is basically crop planting and such. So there's need for conservancies to compete or being able to compete with other land uses just to make sure that we're able to sustain the model. Numbers of livestock is also an issue, and we are managing through agreeing on a carrying capacity. So at the moment, we're working on carrying capacity of livestock in the area. So yeah, so we are focusing on how to solve the challenges, and one of the ways is to make sure that we diversify sources of revenue for the conservancies. So basically, we're looking at how do we make sure that we have other sources of revenue for the conservancies, and not just tourism. Tourism is has been supporting conservancies fully, but in the cases where there is pandemic like the COVID, the conservancies really struggled. So they need to diversify revenue, other revenue avenues, just to make sure that if anything like that happens, we are able to still sustain the conservancies. So other revenue diversification at the moment we're looking at in the Mara is carbon credit. So we are looking at the carbon. How does it support? How can it support conservancies? And we have an organization at the moment called One Mara Carbon Project that is working a lot to make sure that in the next probably 2 years or less, the local communities are able to have the revenue from carbon credit, so to be able to supplement the tourism as a source of revenue for the conservancies. So the idea has been received very well by the local community, and we are in the process as the conservancies to give all the needed support to the One Mara Carbon to be able to sell the carbon credit. Other issues that other efforts that are ongoing, monitoring system. We are trying to use technology in managing the conservancies, and also use the scientific proven data and statistic by working closely with other universities and abroad and also in the country to make sure that we have scientifically proven information or ways of also using technology to better our conservation efforts through using the application tools for data collection, wildlife monitoring, and such. So we'll be able to run the conservancies well. Community engagements are the efforts just to make sure that the community from other areas, especially that borders the Mara, accepts and also get the idea of starting the conservancies, getting involved from the beginning, and also so they take the initiative and own the concept. So we are able to run the conservancies effectively and also get more land for conservation and be able to protect the resources and also reduce the blocking of wildlife corridors. So for the Olare Mutogi Conservancy, which of course is one of the conservancies that I'm managing, and among the top 3 oldest and well-established conservancies in the Mara, we value the community, the community, because as a result, because they have been able to support the running of the conservancy alone. They bought the idea, and now the ownership of the idea is very strong. When you engage the communities in the Mara, and especially in my conservancy, you'll be able to see the ownership of the concept, the conservancy concept. As a result, because it supports it supports the livestock, which is the way of life of the local Maasai community, and also supports the wildlife, which they are receiving the revenue from. So all these have been able to take win-win or win one by one step since through a support of the local community and also the umbrella organization, which is NMWCA, that's been able to support all this conservancy and give them voice through the Kenya Wildlife Conservancy Association body, which is the national level. We'll be able to air our views at the national level and to the ministries, to the wildlife ministries in the national government. Yeah, so that is basically about the structure and how it has been able to improve over a period of time. So if you look at the Conservancies model, it has demonstrated how the balancing of nature and livelihood is able to be achieved through sustainable and community-driven conservation. So the model has proved that it is a success as it has run over a period of time. So at the moment, all the leases are for about 25 years. And that shows the commitment of most of the conservancies. I think most of the conservancies, over 90% leases renewed. So that shows the commitment of the local community to go forward and work with the conservancy to make sure that there is survival of our wildlife for our younger generations to come. So that is the unique model about conservancies in the Mara. So I think that's it from my end, so I can be able to take questions. I'm sure a lot of people have questions, and I'm happy to answer. So Ashole, which is thank you in Maasai language.
There is a question that someone submitted. It's, I'm curious how you work with the park and if tourists should go to conservancies instead of the national parks. What are the benefits? They are planning a trip for June.
That is that's a very good question. I I am biased. I am biased with when answering that question. I would say because I work for the Conservancy, so definitely I'll say come to the Conservancy. There are benefits with both. Okay, basically we need to the National Reserve still belong to the county government of Narok, which basically belongs to the local communities. The revenue, the revenue that received from the tourists goes directly to the landowners if you stay in the Conservancy. So if you stay in the Conservancy, you will be able to sustain the Conservancy. You'll be able to sustain or help sustain the 181,000 hectares if you stay in the Conservancy. So definitely good to stay in the Conservancy, as the revenue will be able to support the local community. Your money will be able to, the revenue collected or received will be able to, will go to the projects funded by the Conservancies to the local community. So yes, stay in the Conservancy. And also, I think the other advantage I would say is, if you look at the model of, for example, OMC, Olare Motorogi Conservancy has controlled game drives. I mean, the number of vehicles per sighting, we can only allow 5 vehicles per sighting. And with a 33,000 acres land at OMC, which is around 12,000 hectares, we only have 5 properties, 5 camps only. And the 5 camps, we allow only 94 beds, which means the tourist numbers in the Conservancy are low. So we don't have traffic in the Conservancy. So in your stay, you'll be able to enjoy a sighting with very few vehicles, 5 at maximum.
Francis, there's a couple more questions. And Kate said, great, I will look you up and say hi from Broomfield. Thank you for answering. And I just wanted to point out, like, as a tourist being there last year, I had the opportunity to be at the Conservancies and visit Nairobi National Park. And yeah, it's much more busy, but the parks were, you know, really run very well. They were beautifully maintained, and they, you know, allow access for everyone and all the school kids to see all these animals. Would you agree with that, Francis?
I agree totally. You know, I do agree 100% that the Conservancies was well maintained. Fewer number of vehicle per sighting and controlled. I'll say controlled sighting, because even if there are 10 vehicles that are on the site, it has to be 5 that goes to the site, and then the rest can wait. With the National Reserve, you'll be able to, or the national parks, you'll be able to go if there are, you can even find over 100 sightings. But that there's still a bunch of animals also in the National Reserve, I'll agree. And the community are able to access, the schools are able to access, and such.
Thank you, Francis. We have a couple more questions. So Karen asks, when did this, and Karen is with the Open Space Foundation, she's our president. When did this conservation model start? How many years?
Like I mentioned, they're in different stages, but the model started 2006. That is, most of them started around 2006. The bigger conservancies, like now the Marano, Olare Motorogi, Conservancy, and Nabosho, which are now the big boys, I would say. And then the rest followed. So the model started becoming stronger and stronger from 2005 onwards.
Thank you. So, and John Parker has, he typed in, isn't the key for long-term sustaining of the wildlife, which supports the safari business, which provides the income to support the conservancies. So yeah, I think it's kind of this win-win model, right?
Yeah.
Or it's a cycle that benefits the conservancies and the parks and
yeah. I mean, it's a win-win because the community will benefit from wildlife conservation or from the conservancy, and also wildlife will be able to get free movement and have enough space to roam. And also with the reserve, most of the wildlife move from the reserve to the conservancies and from the conservancies to the reserve. So there is a cycle in all. So the reserve needs the conservancies and the conservancies still need the reserve.
Thank you, Francis. Any other questions? Oh, there is another question from Judy. Does a tourist see more wildlife in the conservancies or the national parks?
Okay, I think the approach is this: you'll be able to see wildlife in both, but there is exclusivity in the conservancy, as you'll be able to do. We allow off-road driving with good sighting. There are sightings you'll be able to do an off-road drive, which in the reserve you can do an off-road drive, and also in the conservancies you have a minimal number of vehicle per sighting, so that means you'll be able to enjoy more in the conservancy. If you like exclusivity, so there are wildlife in both. But they say, the research proves there are more wildlife in the conservancies at the moment than the reserve. 75% of the wildlife stays in the conservancies or in community-owned land. In the community-owned land, so 25% are now in the national parks in Kenya. So that's what the statistics says. And of course, just to mention, there are conservancies with a lot of densities of wildlife. If you talk about Olare Motorogi, for example, we have 25 lions per 100 square kilometers. So in every 10 by 10 kilometer, we have over 25 lions. So this shows the figures of the numbers of wildlife in the conservancies.
Thank you, Francis. The questions keep coming in. So Kristen asked, do the people in the villages have a council that got to guide decisions too, as well as using the scientific data?
So we have, if you look at the model has the community sitting in the boards of the conservancy. So we have the directors, we have the elected community land holding companies directors. These are the local Maasai individuals, the person that have been selected to sit in the board of management of the conservancies. So in all decisions that are made, their voices are also aired, and they have a representation of the community. So if there is any scientific data or information that sits with the board, they convey the information to the local community. So the directors and also the landholding companies members do convey information to the local community in the villages.
Thank you, Francis. And so let me get you the next question. So Karen asked a couple of questions. How can we support your work in a deeper way? And can you give us your website information?
Yeah, if you look at Olare Motorogi Conservancy, we'll be able to see our website there, but I can provide details. There is a lot to be done, of course, in the conservancies, I'll say. You know, tons of things. So it's just up to organizations and individuals the way they work. But there's a ton of ways to get involved in working with the conservancies.
Great, thank you. And yeah, we can get your website and pass that on. Okay, so we have a question from Kate. Kate is curious about the animals and relationships with the landowners. Has the community embraced the conservatory model, or is there still tension for the poaching?
The communities have embraced a lot. They have embraced conservation, wildlife conservation, to be particular. So one of the things, if you look at the listing of the land, at OMC, for example, we have 90%, out of 310 landowners, 95%, I would say, of them have already renewed their leases to 25 years agreement. So that shows they have received well. Conservancy, they have accepted how the conservancy operate. They have taken the ownership of the conservancies, as they have understood that wildlife, they can benefit from wildlife as much as they can benefit from livestock. So the term at the moment in the conservancy is they are seeing wildlife an equivalent of their cows or their livestock at home, just because of how much the revenue, because of the revenue they're receiving, and also the fact that the Maasai, if you look at the evolution of Maasai, there is always wildlife, livestock, and the local and the Maasai. So there is a triangle, and you know, this is among the fewer communities in the country that have kept their wildlife in the area, in their land. So the acceptance is there, 100%. There's no tension at all when it comes to, you know, the relationship between the Maasai community and wildlife. In fact, the Maasai community who own the land now are the ones reporting if there is any incidences of poaching, if there is an individual who has been seen entering the conservancy, they call us. Most of them call me. They say, we've seen someone getting into the conservancy. We don't know who is this person. So they're also interested with wildlife figures. We just had a meeting as we were reviewing our management plan of the conservancy. We had figures of lions and cheetahs in the conservancy, and reason for, you know, dispersal and such things. And, you know, the local community are very interested in why are figures of cheetahs going down? Why is ABCD happening? So there is the ownership. And I think also through the consolation program, which is basically, it's sort of a compensation, but we call it a consolation because when there is a predation of your livestock, a conservancy has programs where they say, okay, we're sorry, we understand that you've lost your cow. Please receive a small token just to make sure that they understand that we value their livestock as well as also the wildlife. So they don't kill wildlife anymore. Nothing like retaliation. It is very minimal at the moment.
Francis, oh, I do see another question that came in. So a follow-up question from Kate. Are there fences between the park and conservancy, or do they roam back and forth?
There are no fence. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Kate, not too many questions. We have plenty of time.
So we don't have fences between the Conservancy and the National Reserve. With the Maasai Mara National Reserve is not fenced. The Conservancies are also not fenced. So it's a free movement of wildlife from the Conservancies to the National Reserve and back.
Francis, I have a question. So is this like there's no fencing, and obviously like the wildlife travels to Tanzania and different places in their migration, but is your model, this type of model, is it spreading to other communities?
The model is spreading across East Africa, I would say. The Mara is becoming a benchmarking spot for countries like Tanzania, communities in Tanzania who want to create conservancies, countries. I just had a group from Uganda last week coming to my conservancy to benchmark. So they're trying to form a conservancy in northern Uganda. There are communities from Ethiopia that also visited the Maasai Mara National Conservancy Association. So the model is spreading across East Africa and not just Kenya. There are a lot of conservancies in Kenya at the moment. So that means the message is going, people are realizing how much they can benefit by having conservancies, forming conservancies. So you'll be able to see an increment in conservancies numbers in Kenya, in the Mara, and I think also in East Africa. And this is the result of the successful model in the Maasai Mara.
We have another, so Judy asked, what is the best time of year to visit in order to see the most animals?
At the moment, we're trying to sell the Mara all year round. So the conservancies, we need tourists throughout the year in the conservancies, just to make sure that we sustain the model. So apart from the migration, which happens in June, July, all the way to October, you will be able to see all wildlife in the conservancies throughout the year. So any time of the year is perfect. And also, it's up to the guests, because the most of around June, I think, all the way, which they call high season, which is basically just a period where I think most of the guests will just come in. But usually we encourage a booking throughout the year, as they are, nothing changes much. It's just some months are wet, which basically just make your drive more fun, I would say. But other than that, Olive always there, waiting for guests and say hello.
Great. I was there in late September, early October last year and saw so many animals. And the weather was great. And I'll just add that it was really cool to see, you know, the livestock grazing through the conservancies, and, you know, that relationship. Okay, so we have, Judy has a follow-up question. Is this mainly grassland environments?
This is a grass, we are in the grass, it's a grassland biome.
Great. And then another question from Kate, are there books about your work or the Maasai we could learn more about the work, community, and development projects? She just read one about South Africa and elephants and would love to dive into Kenya.
I think basically websites has more information on the activities going on. If you look at the website of the Conservancy, and also if you want to learn more about general conservancies, look at the website of Maasai Mara Wildlife Conservancies Association. You'll be able to see a combination of the foils of the Mara, where they've been producing the foils of the Mara. So basically, as I mentioned, just so I'm clear to, because I'm not sure if I did give that well. So the Maasai Mara Wildlife Conservancies Association is an umbrella organization supporting most of the conservancies. So you'll be able to see the engagement between the conservancies and the community. You'll be able to see progress So if you look at the Maasai Mara Wildlife Conservation, it has good publications about the conservancies in the area. So it's called the Foils of the Mara.
When we're done, like when we're at the end, Francis, will you type that into the chat for us?
Again?
When we're done with questions, will you type that name into the chat so people have it? Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if there's more. So Mike asked, given the grassland biome, can you speak of the role of fire in maintaining healthy grasslands? Do landowners embrace this management technique?
It's quite the opposite, absolutely. We don't, we use livestock to manage grasslands in the Mara, in the conservancies, I would say. So if you look at example, and I give the Olare Motorogi Conservancy, which I am managing, I have, when I joined, there were over 25,000 cows that were able to access the conservancy. And, you know, we reduced the number to 12,000, so that we'll be able to do a rotational grazing in the conservancy. So after they're done with a certain block, we have mapped grazing blocks. So we move them from one block to another until they start from where they started. So we don't use fires because already we have livestock, which are a livelihood for the local community. So we use the cows or the cattle to manage the grassland instead of wildfires. And of course, they're also, the local community don't support fire because they know through fire we lose so many species. You know, reptiles, bird eggs, there are things like other small animals like tortoise and such. But also we already have a tool. So the tool is livestock keeping. So that's our master grassland management tool. But also need to be controlled. So we call it holistic grazing. Number of cattle that the conservancy will be able to carry, which of course fluctuates with rains and you know, droughts and such. But we monitor the grassland, make sure that it's not overgrazed, no overstocking and such. So it's just a pure holistic grazing.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions right now. So, but feel free to ask one. We still have some time. Oh, I see one coming in. Okay. Kate asks, outside of the camp websites, do you have any safari companies you recommend we book with?
Thank you. That's a good question. So if you look at that, we at OMC, which stands for Olare Motorogi Conservancy. So we only have 5 properties, only 5 camps at OMC, which then translate to 94 beds. And that is what we feel like that is enough for the conservancy, enough to give us the right number of vehicle in the conservancy, less vehicle, less crowding, happy animal. So you look, the 5 camps are Great Plain Conservation, that you'll be able to see the camps. There's also so they have a camp called Mara Plains. In the conservancy we have Mahali, Missouri. Also one of the camps we have Olare Kempinski, and then we have Porini Mara, and then we feel like I've exhausted. So 5 of them. So those are some of the camps that you can book through if you need to come to the conservancies or come to Olare Motorogi Conservancies. Of course, the other camps in other conservancies. We do have other camps in the conservancies. I think 30 something camps in the conservancy. Around 39 camps in different conservancies in the Mara. So in the 25 conservancies in the Mara, there are over 39 different tourism camps. Yeah. So basically, I'm talking about Olare Motorogi because the rest are so many. So I'm just talking about the 5 of the conservancies that I come from. Yeah. So those are the 5 camps.
These are great questions. Oh, here comes another one. Addie asked, does the Conservancy partner with any organizations or other conservation efforts? As well, are there any plans for expanding the Conservancy and its efforts?
We do welcome other organizations to work with the conservancies. 100% we do have. And we will welcome more because we definitely need to do a lot of conservation work in the area. There are a lot of pending things or maybe efforts that are that we'd like to do as a conservancy. Sometimes we're not able to do. We look at things like, we have ranges to sustain the ranges in the community or in the conservancy, just to make sure that we have enough numbers. There's community projects that we do fund as the conservancies through other organizations and donors. Things like rain harvesting projects. There's bursaries and scholarships and things like that we try to do just to make sure the community also benefit and get sense of what we do as a conservancy and also feel to be part of the model. And also to make sure that we empower women in the community and also improve the livelihood of the community. So the Conservancy are really open to any partnership with other organizations to make sure that we take the Conservancies to other levels. So we welcome the partnership. We are so eager to have partners to work with.
Well, we have about 7 minutes if there are other questions. And Francis, if you wouldn't mind chatting to everyone, those websites, if it's easy, not if it's a pain, but I think that it sounds like people are interested in learning more. I did find the website for the Conservancy that I've shared with Maddie. So maybe she can share it out.
Yeah, I think you can also share the website of the camps. I think with the Conservancy, Olare Motorogi Conservancy website, you can be able to get most of the camps. So that should be able to see the properties in the Conservancy. And I think also with the Maasai Mara Wildlife Conservancy Association, you'll be able to get more information about different other conservancies in the larger landscape.
That's great. I'll go and look for that website as well. But in the meantime, we had another good question come in. So do you live on the land or outside? Are you a landowner, or what made you get involved?
What made me what?
What made you get involved in this work?
I see. So I am a landowner of Olare Motorogi Conservancy. So my family do own land in the Conservancy. But the reason why I'm involved is because, just generally, I have a big interest in conservation ever since I was young. Growing up in the Mara, with all the wildlife and that used to be what we do, wildlife, livestock, that's all in the Mara. And I developed an interest in conservation. And particularly when I after my university and masters, my interest was more on community conservation. So I wanted from the beginning when I was young. I think when I graduated from high school, I just wanted to become a conservancy manager of specifically Olare Motorogi Conservancies. It's an interesting thing because that's why I am today. Just to be able to serve my community. So through such, of course, I through a series and rigorous interviews, I was able to be selected to be the conservancy manager. But it's through the passion for conservation that I'm here. And also, they don't give you as because you're a Londoner or anything. It's just through rigorous interviews and competition in competitive interviews. That's why I'm able to score this. But all in all, it's just by a big passion and grace that through commitment efforts that I'm able to run the Conservancy. And I think I'm the first Londoner Conservancy manager in Londoner, first Londoner to become a Conservancy manager.
Great, thank you, Francis. And the next question is, oh, Kate just said amazing. So thank you for that answer. These are really great questions. Looks like we have about 3 minutes left. And Maddie, thank you for sharing that website out. She shared out the Olare Motorogi Conservancy.com website. Oh, we have another question from Kristen that came in, Francis. She said, it's so interesting that you came from your home in Kenya to go to school in Colorado. How was this experience for you in Colorado?
Oh, the experience was amazing. I mean, coming from the Maasai Mara, which of course I know if you come here and all the experience in the Mara, and then get into a fast-moving country, well developed, it was a big adjustment. It was like starting from scratch. You start learning everything, learning the roads, learning to cope with a new life completely away from home. First time getting out of the country, and then living in Colorado. So it was a big change for me. I think I did well in settling in well, and also it really widened my network. I got to meet a lot of people from different parts of the world, met different organizations. That's where I met John Parker, who introduced me to Butterfly Pavilion, and where I got to go to my financial support and tuition fee and such. And it was completely a different part of the world, but there were a lot of good lessons, and it's a very lucrative, nice country to live in. It's tempting to stay in the US, good health system and everything, but I wanted to go back home and give back to my community. So it's a very nice experience. I took all the knowledge and experiences back home. So I am here working for the community.
Thank you. I think probably that we will have to wrap it up now. Kristen said, we are so glad you made that incredible journey. You sound like such an adaptable and service-driven person. Hooray. Thank you.
I'm happy if anyone on the email and chat more questions by email, feel free to share with anyone who would be interested to get info about the conservancies, the projects, the community projects that the Conservancy is interested in doing and such. And for future partnership, we are open as the Conservancy.
That's great. Thank you, Francis, so much. And can you just verify if the other website you were talking about to learn more is Maasai Mara Wildlife Conservancies?
Should be Conservancies Association, yeah?
Okay, well, we can wrap up and maybe send that out. Or if people reach out, we can share that with them.
All right, yeah, sure.
Thank you to the City and County of Broomfield and the Open Space Foundation. This was so wonderful.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Francis and Tara. We really appreciate it. And what we can do, Francis, is Maddie and I will communicate with you and get the information that you would like to share, and then we can post that on our website. So we would want to make sure anything we post is okay for you. So we'll follow up with that for those that are on the call, just so you know how to get that information. So Tara, do you want to pass the virtual donation to Francis for his good work?
Yes, indeed. So as a thank you, we would like to gift to you a donation to Francis of $200, which he is going to be donating to the Hardwick Foundation USA. So thank you so much for your time, Francis. And
thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
I hope you can get some sleep now.
Yeah.
I think I'll go